view from the office that we're currently in. It's looking outside to Bay Street.
It's pretty cool.
Toronto, Ontario.
29th floor. We're up high.
You mean not Ontario, Canada?
No, Toronto, Ontario.
You ever notice that? When the UFC's on or something and they announce a fighter, it's like, from Ontario, Canada. Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we're nothing here in Toronto.
They didn't realize we were this far north. Like, people actually came this far north.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's going on, man?
Doing well. Brandon here. We got Sir Greg.
Greg.
Always with the sir. Always with the sir.
You did it. You did it.
Karl Boyd.
You didn't get it, sir.
Welcome. Got a good show today. Who's on the show today? We got David Sutton, President and COO of Nanosphere Health Sciences. And we have Chuck Smith, CEO of Dixie Brands, coming on. They go public tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. There's the camera. We'll do that soon. I never know if it's the slider one or the front one. And Johnny Mack coming on for an extended period today.
Extended.
We had a
Overtime.
poll
Overtime.
on our Facebook group.
Little Oakville Trafalgar.
Ooh, Oakville. It wasn't Oakville Trafalgar.
No, it's just a OT.
Oh.
Overtime.
Did you guys take your CBD today?
Yeah, I did actually.
Focus.
I took a half a syringe.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was good stuff, yeah.
Okay, well, we got to up that.
Were you expecting me to actually say that? But we do a poll every single week. Stops at 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. You get to put whatever stock you want on there and vote for it.
Who won?
Wayland won with a
Again.
landslide, actually. I think TSX Venture came in second.
Oh.
So not
just
just
gonna
stocks,
talk
you can do
about all
indices
the-
as well, the overall market.
Yeah, I want to see. That was actually
was yours?
one I put in there.
Yeah.
That's
and
important.
it rallied the troops.
And it's
You
around
probably
2
just
o'clock
made
they'll
up-
be coming on.
Guys, one at a time, okay?
Why?
One
We
person
can all
time.
talk at the same time. It'll just be confusing for our viewers, so we won't.
Okay.
Good for you.
So, Carl, what do you want to talk about?
I don't care.
Do you want to
Let's
talk
talk about softballs.
Softballs. I'm terrible at the game.
Oh, yeah?
Terrible, yeah. I
Was a-
prefer hardball.
Was a hobby of mine.
You're a good baseball player, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, I saw a swing. It's pretty good.
Did you?
A couple of swing and a misses. But
Only a few times in dome ball.
yeah, dome ball.
Dome ball.
Why don't we talk about this press release that came out 2 days ago? I talked about it a little bit yesterday on the Midas Letter show, hosting with Uncle Ed, Sir Ed, the Senior Ed, the Masterful Ed. I got no more other names for him then. But we talked about then the Bridgemark aspect, where that BC Securities
All
Commission.
shares matter.
Yeah, they've officially announced that they launched an investigation into them. Still ongoing, but that has a lot of companies, a lot of people involved. And we've been following that for months now because of our involvement in block play. And as
why
the
weren't
shareholders,
they-
we do our due diligence in it.
When were they named?
11
companies,
they
do we know?
didn't do well. The shareholders voted down the private placement. If they didn't get that private placement voted down, and they probably would have been on the list.
Oh, so it's only companies that were involved in a private placement with Bridgemark,
Yeah.
pretty much.
For the
I
most
guess.
part. So because they
Yeah.
didn't do that actual raise, that's why they. That's
wow.
what we're just alleging, right?
11
We're
companies,
trying to
dude.
That's the
deduce.
thing. Like I'm okay talking about this, but it seems like this thing is just getting going, and
Yeah.
they're. It's just I don't want to
On
talk
its
about
way to a
stuff that's
documentary
not,
on
That's
Netflix.
not factual.
Yeah, and that's why I always say, you're always innocent until proven guilty. That's North America. It's in our systems. But there's a lot of companies that are named in this, and I just want people to realize that some of these companies, I'm quite confident, did not fully understand what was going on. We've spoken to a couple where they did not know what was happening.
Yeah.
So it's hard to cross judgment. So if you just see a name on there, you can't think, oh, that company. I remember Delta 9, I believe, was in there, and you look at Delta 9, and I don't think there was any collusion there whatsoever. That's just personal opinion, though, of course. But you got to be careful with putting judgment, like you're saying, because it's an ongoing investigation. This is not a for sure thing.
Yeah.
This is simply stating we have paused these consultants for the time being while we investigate this further. So you got to keep that in mind, but they also wouldn't put that in press release if they didn't think it was enough information to warrant.
You don't want to miss the magic in the lesson here, and as much as I'm sure more facts will come out about what is actually happening here, and people have to take, like, successful people take responsibility for things, you know? And I'm not going to just say, oh, all these companies, you know, they're not responsible. I mean, look, at the end of the day, as an investor, you have to do your own due diligence. You guys agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why
you preach it all the time.
Yeah,
man.
so you have to do that,
it.
right? And you know, if we have to do our due diligence, then what about these companies that are going into promotional activity or whatever? They have to, you know, do their due diligence as well, right? So, hey, I mean, if these companies are taking a little bit of a hit, it's understandable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's understandable, and I think that the you know, the Securities Commission has a responsibility to step in if they see fit. If they're doing their own research and they're finding, yeah, maybe there's something here, they have to stop people from getting potentially hurt.
Yep.
Right?
It's a costly mistake,
So
but
awkward,
if you learn
awkward.
from it.
Yeah, it's an awkward situation right now. But, you know, personally, I have personally actually taken a loss from the Place situation. I still own shares in that shell.
All of us took 5-figure losses.
Yeah, so, and you know what? I don't ever want to take a loss, but that loss, I refuse to blame other people for why I took a loss.
Yeah.
Right? I decided to jump in that around 4 cents, looking at all the upside, and that was a risk.
Yeah.
That was the risk that I took, right? So we don't blame other people. I'm not letting anybody off the hook, but at the same time, I'll never.
But it's not really a loss until you sell, which
I'll never.
you did.
Yeah, I'll never. It's weird. Like, really, a part of me just wanted to get into the trenches with some of our members and just, you know, have their backs. You know. Now, that's just my personality, my character, right? And the thing is that when it comes to play, you know, the tech that was there and some of the people that were involved, it had potential. It really did. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And that's a shitty situation because it just seems like, you know, not a lot of people are going to become winners from that, but I don't know. We'll know. It's still early. Shell could end up, they can roll an asset into that thing, clean it up when they find these fucking accounts and all this stuff that they have.
What do you think of the timeline on that is?
I don't know. They got, but I'll say this.
I'd like to know,
No, but I'll say this though. I do believe that they have the right people on board. Like they have, I think his name is I could be wrong. Is it Chris Irwin?
Yeah, and John, I believe.
John Gill, right? But Chris Irwin is like is a lawyer, and he's really good with shells and cleaning them up, right?
Yeah.
These guys got their hands full. Like they've had, you can see their leadership, right? Because they had a news release last week, basically saying they're not going to be able to report on time, right?
Yeah.
So they actually asked to have the stock, I think, halted. And it's because they can't get a hold of some of the accounts, and they're still trying to figure stuff out. Yeah. So they're just being proactive, right? And that's the right thing to do.
Gotta get ahead of it.
But that is the right thing to do, is to be proactive and let everybody know what's going on. So you as a speculator, investor, you're making the right decision. You have the information to make that. They're not misleading anyone. Yeah. So that there could easily be another, I don't know, I mean, you know, just spitballing time.
You can't say a time.
Yeah, there's no, right?
Weeks, months, you truly can't.
What I can say is that right now there's a lot of value for CSE listed shells and companies, right? Just because a lot of American companies can't list their cannabis plays.
So they're buying them all up.
Well, they want to roll their assets into them, right? Yeah. And then when things change, they can move around. So ideally, they want to clean. If I haven't spoken to these people, and they're more than welcome to come on the show if they want to talk about what's going on. Here's an outlet for you. But they have to clean that thing up, and they have to put an asset into that thing sooner than later. Right, so that the value is still there before the states open up the cannabis market there, because now things are going to change, and the value isn't going to be there for these CSC shells.
Smart.
That's why they're taking a premium.
You should be on board.
Yeah.
Be on board for what?
We'll vote you in.
On the board.
Listen, I'm just a little investor wearing a Leafs jersey. Nobody likes me.
But I think it's true. The cool part of it, and for people who are just tuning in, we're talking about the BC Securities Commission, the press release they released, I think 2 days now ago, on a company called Bridgemark and different consultants, and what allegedly is a lot of misappropriation of funds and just a lot of action that they said, hey, wait a second, we're going to halt everything you guys are doing for right now until we can look into this further. But I think the really interesting part about this is that a lot of this was led by investors. It was people doing due diligence, seeing something that was wrong, recognizing it, and bringing it to the attention of the BC Securities Commission.
You know what? I'll say this. A lot of people have a few people have really done the due diligence and dug in and got a hold of what is really happening here. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And you know, retailers get knocked. You know, they're sheep, this and that, whatever. Listen, I've met some retailers that I would say can do a lot better research and due diligence than some of these institutions, hands down. And these people are really the ones that, you know, we should be thanking for what happens in the future. Maybe some rules are changed. Maybe there's going to be some changes.
Absolutely, this
is big.
Yeah,
oh,
but listen, I mean, these are the type of people that have a lot of character. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people just would say, you know what, I'm done. You know what I mean? I'm out of this situation. Yep. And then it steamrolls on to these people can just go on and do whatever they're doing. So I mean, you know, down the road, maybe other things can come out, right? But there's yeah, I wish I could say more, but
this is the beginning. The Financial Post just came on to this. A bunch of different news publications are coming on to this. We've known, you know, not known about what's going on, but like you see elements of this, and we've been watching this for months now. Where our members, you know, if you're looking into a company, we're saying check the Form 9s, check the Form 10, look who got in the placements. Well, we're coming together as a community and trying not to get screwed over.
You know, it's funny, right? Some guy wrote an article today, which I really don't want to talk about, and he took a little jab saying, you know, we ask softball questions. Listen, don't watch the fucking show, okay? Because when we have this company on, one of these companies that's listed, I told everybody on here, go read the Form 9. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't even really want to run I think we chose not to run that interview after. Mm-hmm. It was an awkward time because
we never put it to our YouTube. We found out late.
Right, we had the CEO lined up to come on this show. And we got it. Remember this?
Yep.
And we got a hold of some information, like, I don't know, 15 minutes before the show. And I didn't even want to do the interview. I didn't want it to happen. But it was like, you know, we want to be respectful and whatever. But right before we threw to the interview, I told everybody, go check the Form 9.
Yep. It's and that was 3 months ago, 2 months ago or something.
We're in the information age. Everything is on Twitter. All shares matter. People stuck their neck out with due diligence, and it was all there. And
people are getting sued over this.
Our group and our members were some of those people that were out there trying to let people know. So to the guy that's taking a jab at follow the money, you know, like, you should really
just watch the show. Watch the show, and you realize there's a lot.
Chill out, you know. Relax.
There's a lot of different elements, and even having Chris on the show, Chris Perry, what was it? I think that was about 2 months ago, specifically talking about Abatis and talking about Bridgemark. Go on to into our website, FTMIG.com. Go into our video section. You'll see it there. We had about a half an hour conversation on this, and he was hinting, you know, there's stuff to come. There's stuff to come.
Yeah.
It is the beginning, though. It's the very beginning of this.
And you know what? We don't ever try to act like we're something we're not. You know what I mean? We bring companies on here, and this was the foundation of how the Facebook group was started. You know, I was preaching to people, go talk to CEOs, ask them questions. And we're not fucking perfect. You know what I mean? We're still learning, right? And so, yeah, maybe we do some interviews that are a little bit soft. So what? We criticize each other all the time. Yeah. We'll get better with it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, before a year ago today, not today, but in the last couple of weeks, because I saw the anniversary on Facebook try to say, you have a 1-year anniversary with Karl. Almost a year ago is when we first went to PDAC, mining convention, with a lapel microphone in hand, a stand, and a cell phone, and we just started doing interviews. That was the first interview I had ever done before. I'd never been in front of a camera before.
You were a natural.
And it's funny, you go out there, and we had our members on Facebook Live saying, go to booth 3342.
That's
3342. Right. Okay, who are you? Okay, we're going to do an interview with you because our members are asking. And we just started from there. So absolutely, we're learning and we're growing with what questions to ask, how to approach things. To anybody who wants to do these types of things, come on the show. You'll see it's a little harder than you think. But listen, we're out here just doing stuff for our investors.
If some of you at home are watching this, maybe it's on the weekend or whatever, and you think you can get up here and do this, or you think you can add value to what we're doing, shoot me an email, send me a private message. We're always looking for people to come on board and help out. How do you think we found Greg?
Yeah.
You know
How did you find me?
Nobody's up here trying to putting on a show and try to act like we're something we're not. You know what I mean? We're just a bunch of investors. We're trying to help our community. Like even before this show, all of the companies that are coming on, we're going in our chat rooms, we're saying, hey, we're interviewing these companies. Do you have any questions? So you tell me, you find me another Facebook group that's giving their community for free that type of value.
Yep.
So don't criticize, just chill.
Yep. Well said.
Come watch to learn. Markets. We'll go over markets real quickly before jumping into our first interview.
How do they look?
They look better.
They look better.
They look better today. You look at Aurora, Canopy, Afria, CanTrust, Wayland, Namaste. All of them are making some good progress, but we want to see it a couple days in a row. One day means nothing. It's already just going 2 days in a row.
And we need a catalyst. It's just, even if there's a few days in a row, we need something bigger to like help it stay up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, on that note, because we went a little bit longer on the beginning part, but that's good. I like that. That's why we're here. We started doing it.
You got a little bit of a passion.
You just got to come here and
I thought you were going to jersey me.
He comes here, he's like, I don't know what we're going to say. Then boom, we get some speeches out of him. Love it. But let's go over to Nanosphere really quickly. We had David Sutton, President and COO, come by the studio via Skype to talk about their company. Let's go check out what he had to say.
Okay.
And we're joined here today by David Sutton, President and COO of Nanosphere. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So we were going to go over a couple of things, but just before we really dive into the interview, for those who are just hearing about you or have seen your ticker or your company in passing but haven't really dived into your company, who is Nanosphere and what do you do?
Yeah, we are a healthcare technology company with a patented delivery system that increases the bioavailability or effectiveness of a lot of bioactive components, things like medications, nutraceuticals, and what's really exciting, cannabis as well. We have a patent in that for our delivery technology. And what it allows us to do is increase the effectiveness of the cannabinoids. You know, traditionally, ingested cannabis has a very low bioavailability. And what we can do is we can nano-encapsulate those cannabinoids to increase the bioavailability, increase the onset of actions, with a repeatable dose.
Yeah, and it's actually what you touched on a point there that has come to my attention a lot in recent months. A lot of people are talking about is that when you start transforming or manipulating cannabis in any sort of way, whether you put it into an edible, whether you put it into a liquid, as soon as heat is involved, you start really changing the chemical compound of cannabis. And are you saying that your products are able to make that process smoother or better, or that's just the focus that you're on right now is going into, like, say, a strictly THC or CBD and a bunch of different formulations that way?
So what we know is that the dose that we deliver, we actually avoid a lot of those issues that can be caused when you digest cannabis. You know, there's a lot of destructive factors. There's low uptake because it is lipophilic. What our technology allows us to do is administer cannabis either through the skin, through the buccal area of the mouth, and even intranasally. This provides a more consistent dose, no matter what the specific cannabinoid content is. For example, our nano serum, which is currently on the market in Colorado, soon to be in California as well, is applied through the skin, and it's a very effective transdermal product to treat pain and anxiety. It's delivered in dose meter pen, so you know what you're getting every single time you take it. We have several products coming out into the market next year, an intraoral product and an intranasal. Both of these provide very consistent dosage amounts. In fact, our human PK blood study showed that our onset of THC through the area is within 10 minutes. So the benefits of our technology really show to have that good onset that you can rely upon.
Yeah, and that's really important, actually, 10 minutes, because usually for those who are just starting to learn a little bit more about cannabis and ingesting it, usually it has to pass to your liver and through a bunch of other things. It takes usually 45 minutes to an hour for that to onset, and for a medication, you can't have onset of an hour. You know, a lot of people they need that as soon as possible. So for an edible to be in 10 minutes, that's actually that's really good. I like hearing that, actually.
Yeah, and so, and we don't really call it an edible. You know, we call it our intraoral product because, again, the problem with edibles is all that variability and the potential stacking effect. You know, when you take a edible and you wait those 45 minutes and it's still not working, you may take another dose. Well, 2 hours down the road, you could be hit with a very powerful effect that you weren't looking for. With our technology, administering both through the buccal area of the mouth and through the nose, you're going to start feeling it almost immediately, and that's going to prevent accidental over-administration.
And doctors will love that aspect, actually, because that's what they want. But this is also could easily be used recreationally as well. So not just to segregate it just to medical. Some people obviously don't like smoking, so they go through other means to partake in cannabis as well. So it's interesting. Now, does that have to do? There was a recent news release that just came out. That was that Nanosphere develops a new product line eliminating the need to smoke cannabis. Is that the same that we're talking about right now, or is this another new product that you've just brought onto the market?
No, that is what we're talking about here. It is our intraoral and intranasal applications. You know, you just mentioned the recreational opportunity for these products. Both the intranasal and the intraoral have a very quick onset. Particularly the intranasal, what we found in initial testing is an onset within 80 seconds, which is tremendous. It's a low dose, but a very powerful effect, so you need less to get more. It's discreet, and so we really see this being a very, very strong recreational product.
Absolutely, in 80 seconds, that's very fast. Now, let's switch a little gears here. When it comes to selling your product or different supply deals or strategic partnerships moving forward, what's your goal in building this company? Are you selling straight to the end user? Are you wholesaling? Do you have partnerships in this field?
So yeah, it is partnerships. You know, because we're based in the U.S., what we have to do is license our technology with 2 individual licensees in each state. Currently, we're not allowed to ship product across state lines, so we can't build a large manufacturing site and ship out nationwide. We have to select, you know, highly qualified partners that are operating in the legal markets. We then go in with our equipment. We teach them how to build our technology and our products. We license our brand, and we assist them in their marketing efforts. This keeps us moving quickly, while also reducing our risk as we actually don't touch the plant. So it keeps us a little, it de-risks us from the federal regulations, if you will.
Yeah, and it's an interesting situation in the States because each state obviously has different jurisdictions. You've got to be able to partner with other states in order to cross the borders like you were talking about. But also there's so much talk about legalization federally. I think it's heated up even more in recent weeks and months. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks and months to see how that progresses. And I believe even the Farm Bill, I think we're supposed to hear about that today or tomorrow. Forgive me if it's already come out and I haven't noticed it this morning. But that in itself, although that's more so towards hemp, that's a huge step forward for U.S. cannabis in general.
Absolutely. You know, we are actually building out a large production facility for our hemp-based CBD product. This will be available across state lines, so we're very excited to see what comes out in the Farm Bill. And even when it does, when the THC side of things become unrestricted, if you will, our model allows us to turn those licensees into distribution hubs. So what we'll be able to do is scale our manufacturing systems here in Colorado and then ship bulk to this state, so no one gets hurt in the process.
No, and you're right, and it's good to hear. And you know that, as I said earlier, that's going to be a big development for the United States. So I'm looking forward to seeing our brothers and sisters south of the border starting to push forward with more legalization. Now, I've noticed something in the back there. It seems like there's a cannabis cup in your back. Is that an award for something?
Yeah, that's an award we won last year for Best Transdermal as Dope Magazine's analysis of industry-wide products, and we took home Best Transdermal, so we're very excited about that. What we're really proud about is the Frost & Sullivan Technology Innovation Award we won this year. That's a tremendous honor. You know, companies that have won in past years have been companies like 3M. So to be among those participants is quite an honor.
Yeah, congratulations on that. It's always nice seeing those different elements and being rewarded for part of your craft, what you're doing for your company. I'd like to turn attention to a question one of our investors had asked, as we turned to our investors community and asked who would have questions for you for today. So one of the questions was, do you have to wait until the concentration market is opened up legislatively in Canada to get your products approved for sale in Canada?
So we're actually working on a special formula to fit Health Canada's restrictive guidelines, if you will. We're tweaking our own formula and testing it right now, and should be submitting an application here in the coming month.
Gotcha, and that actually ties right into that into our investors' next question. It actually answers it already. Is talking about entering Canada and exporting to the Canadian market. It sounds like you've already made that. Started that process. You're working with Health Canada to make that come to fruition.
Yes, and with Delta 9, who we've been working out our deal together for the past couple of months now, and hopefully we'll get that wrapped up here soon. And they will be our licensed partner for the Canadian market, as well as our global distribution partner as well.
I did not know that, actually. I met their CEO earlier this year and got a chance to talk to him. They've got that pod system of growing cannabis. I really liked him. He was a smart guy. He was passionate. So yeah, I didn't know that connection. It's good to know that, actually.
Yeah,
now,
we're very excited about it. We love.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Moving into the structure of your actual stock and what you're excited about. So looking at your share structure, how many shares are outstanding, and do you have a number of ownership from insiders and management for your company? Yeah,
so there's roughly 97 million shares outstanding. We, like many companies, completed an RTO last year where the company holds 60% of those shares. So the majority of the shares outstanding are held by insiders. They're still under a lockup period for another 2 years. The float is very stable.
Good to hear. And when it comes to different warrants and options that are out there, you're currently sitting around 33 cents Canadian. Is there any, what are the paper situation out there? Are there people with really cheap warrants and options out there, or are we in a good state of, we've been building a good base, ready to move forward with the share price?
By now what we've seen over the past year has been some liquidation of some cheap paper. By now that should be over with. We think the downward pressure on our stock is just market wide right now. But it's an excellent time to buy. We've got a lot of great things coming up next year. So we're really excited about it. I think that it's a tremendous value right now.
Good to hear. And yeah, and the market in itself, I mean, you could talk about anywhere in North America, from the smallest tier to the highest tier of cannabis companies. There's always been pressure recently. We'll wait to see when that subsides. But moving forward, no, it's good to hear all these different things. People want to know more about a company, and I appreciate the time that you've taken to come on here and talk about your company to both myself, but all the viewers and investors watching this as well. And if you want to look into more, it's NSHS on the CSC. You can find them, Nanosphere Health. And do you have a website or I'm sure you do, but the website that you have for investors to look into a little bit more?
Yes, nanospherehealth.com. For information on our products, specifically in the cannabis sector, it's evolvedformulas.com.
Beautiful. Well, I appreciate it very much coming on the show. I know it's really early in the morning over in Colorado, so thank you for coming on. We look forward to seeing what you have in store for the rest of the year, but especially going into 2019.
Yes, happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Take care. And we're back.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was a good interview. I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's innovative. It's
a niche. It's new.
Yeah, and the onset. We had someone here, 30 Mil asks, question for you guys, FTMIG, with his new delivery method, do they currently see it allowing for control over the length of the high as well? Or is it just the onset time? It's a great question, and it was not asked.
We got to get the questions in before, so what you got to do is you got to join our Facebook group where we tell our community who's coming on our show, and we ask you if you have any questions.
But I can ask those. I'll get in contact with them.
But Brandon is starting to ask harder questions, okay?
You like that?
He's working on it.
Working on it. I just like everybody.
But that's good to know about their share structure and what's going on.
So
their
they're
lockup
escrowed
periods.
for how long?
2 years.
Two more
Pretty
years.
good.
Escrow for 2 years, not too much in the money.
They're at a great value right now.
30 cents, I think.
Yeah.
It is,
Excuse
something
me.
like that.
Do not pose as an analyst on our show.
Yeah, we don't hide anything.
But no, the actual length of the high, I'm not too sure, to be very honest. The onset was really interesting because edibles, anyone who's consumed one before, you take one, it's like, nothing's happening. You take another, nothing's happening. You take another, and then all of a
I
sudden...
believe you were telling me a story about
Oh yeah, that's an off camera story. That was
okay,
hilarious.
cool.
Oh yeah. That was a long time.
Yeah.
But
But then you just take too much because you're just like, I'm not feeling it yet.
you don't
I'm not
see
feeling it yet.
So to have the onset, I think medical-wise, and recreation as well, as we point out in the video, medical-wise though, I think that would be big because that could be onset of 80 seconds.
Huge.
Like that's quick relief for if you are using it for pain,
And if we
stomach
can
aches,
find
something
out
like that.
30 mils question
Yeah.
on how long that lasts,
Yeah.
that'd be even better to know.
Be nice
I
if
wonder
it
if he
lasted
has
15
30
hours.
million. Or is he talking about like, is it like a bullet, like a 30
So
mil bullet?
FTMIG has a
Oh, boy.
question for you, 30 mil. Do you have 30
Do you
million
have 30
dollars?
million? And if so, did you make a new TFSA?
Yeah.
Eh?
Hey.
Eh? I'd like to give a shout out to my new friend Paul from Belgium.
Oh yeah?
Belgium.
What's his last name?
Vanderbrand?
I think it was Vander. We were asking about that, Paul.
believe we were,
If it's wrong, forgive us, but I think that's close.
Yeah,
I think it's close.
yeah. I spoke with him earlier. We are going to connect
Yeah.
and potentially work on something in the
That
future.
close. I love
Okay,
it.
I am a passionate
Actually,
guy.
speaking of connecting, I didn't know that Nanosphere was connected with Delta 9 as well.
I had no clue.
Like,
I had no clue. I'm sure there's an earlier news release that came out, but how many? Like we aggregate what 30 to 40 news releases a day on
I
our
know.
website.
Oh, you fancy?
it's in there somewhere.
You fancy, huh? And there's just so many, so it's hard to keep track. But that's interesting as well. They already have their Canadian player, and I like Delta 9.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of his name right now off the cusp of my memory. It's not there. I met him though at Lift & Co.
Oh, yes.
Earlier this year. Had a good talk with him. Younger guy.
And
Not
run that
bright.
interview.
Yeah. Can they find it that quickly? No, don't. But yeah, no. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. You had a topic you wanted to continue talking on.
Yes.
Oh,
When it comes to
Yes.
marketing
I love
and promotional work and stuff like that, public companies, private companies too, right? They need to get their names out there. They need to get their story out there, and
Yeah.
we're an avenue for that.
That's what we do.
But you know what? It's just like there's a market also bashing companies. We don't participate in that. We're not. Even in our Facebook group, it's very difficult to find. I was talking about this on a Facebook Live, actually. It's so hard to get everybody to get along.
Yeah.
You know, it's so hard to get everybody to explain their thoughts and articulate themselves and not offend everybody. You know, and we're trying to get people to do that, to just listen, put your facts out there. Don't try to pose as an analyst. Don't be telling anyone to buy stocks. But back to my original point was, listen, there's people out there that will write articles and point out the flaws in companies, and there's a demand for that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like anything else, right? You've got the good and the bad, and it's always, in my opinion, not just as an investor, but even as a media source, to just be neutral. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to pay us to only talk about good things. If we find out about bad things or whatever, we can drop clients if we want.
Constructive criticism is always welcome.
Yeah, and any company
Always welcome.
And I wouldn't want to be associated with any company that can't accept some hard questions, or hey, this is going on, like what's happening. I mean, if they don't want to, if people are expecting us to stand by them, if there's shadiness going on, I mean, we just drop them.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's not worth it, and it's not that hard to get
Put that in the
clients.
fine print.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's all how you approach things, and how we came from just being a Facebook group to where we are now is by being legitimate and not allowing people to just talk shit to each other and be condescending and all those things you always hear me talk about. So
It's essential to our culture.
we will continue on that path, and by all means, if you want to be a part of what we're doing, maybe you can sit there and do due diligence on these companies that we're going to have on in a more extensive way, and you can come up with questions for
We
these
always need a
companies.
writer too.
Writers, yeah,
Anything.
but you can be a part of what we're doing.
Yeah. And Prince Tezik, I don't know how to say your last name there, T-Z-O-C, said, don't be neutral, be objective. And I think neutral isn't the right word, because I know that you're objective all the time. We just mean we're not going to go out there and start bashing companies. I'd rather just not talk about those companies unless it's detrimental to people. But if we're talking criticism, or if we're talking about something that we need to talk about in a company,
but
we don't shy away from that at all.
Right.
Be an adult about it.
What my point was, and maybe I didn't articulate it well enough, is there's a market to bash companies, to write stuff. It will get people will share the crap out of those articles. And you know what? When these people talk about, this one writer was talking about how there's, companies have big promotional campaigns and stuff like that. He has a point, right? The companies are trying to get all the goodness about their companies out there. So obviously there's a market for talking about the other stuff. Especially like if you have a blog site. If you're bashing companies, people that stuff will get shared. It will on Twitter. Everybody's going to share that to their friends, right?
Especially shorters.
So there's a market for that, right? My point was, what was he correcting me on? Being objective?
No. He's just saying don't be neutral, be objective. And that's where I knew that your words just weren't right there.
And it's always good to look at things and be skeptical. Of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely, but you know what? Sometimes, listen, we bring companies on here, and we don't have all the time to do extensive due diligence on them. I know people can probably take cracks at us for that, but look, at the end of the day, we're trying to bring them on here and get a feel, right? So we can always follow up with them. We can always have follow-up questions. We can talk about them in our chat rooms. But the reality is if you're in our group, and we say we're going to have a company on, do you have any questions?
Now's the time. We went to our chat rooms, we went to everything to ask
people. If we come
people
together, right, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and Carol says, you guys are doing a great job and shouldn't be so hard on yourself about this. And I don't know, and I appreciate the kind words. And don't worry, we're not hard on ourselves as if this is bringing us down or anything like that. We're very open. This is how we started. We go on to Facebook Live and we just talk. We're normal human beings. We've been investing for a while. We do have a lot of knowledge in this space, but at the same time, we're investors just like you, so that's what we're planning on doing. We always take criticism, both constructive and positive. We always stroke Greg's beard because it's marvelous. Like, how'd you do that?
You like that, eh?
So, no, we're always in good spirits, but we want to address these things because if people have issues with us or if they like us, both sides of that helps us, it helps you, it helps all of us continue to grow. We'll never shy away from it.
One thing I do not like is his shirt. I don't like a lot of your shirts.
I don't think you like any of my shirts. Yeah, I can't say that about you. If I want to be angry right now, I love the Toronto Maple Leafs. I can't be angry with you about that.
Yeah. That's why he does it.
Maybe I'll take you shopping one day. We'll go into some big boy shirts or something.
Me do it.
That'll
actually quite
that'll never happen.
Fun
First of all, I'm the most annoying guy you'd ever want to go shopping with. I still have the tag on my Eddie Bauer jacket.
Yeah.
I'm going to wear it a couple times.
And take it back. Well, on that note. We also had. Oh, do you want another point?
What note were we on? A or B or?
C actually.
C, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I think D.
We're on B sharp.
There's your segue.
Ooh, be sharp with your beard.
Oh boy.
So our segue is this. We are going to another clip because we had another, in Colorado again, another U.S. company, Dixie Brands. Chuck Smith is the CEO. He came by. A lot of interesting things were said in this interview. You'll only find out right now.
Right now.
So we're currently here with Chuck Smith, CEO of Dixie Brands, all the way from Colorado. Thank you for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and thanks so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And we want to start off for all of our investors who are curious in your company. Who are you? What are you doing? And what are you set to be doing? We're almost in 2019 now, so and in the very near future.
Right. Well, thanks for that. It's a very exciting time here for Dixie Brands. Dixie is really the owner of the #1 portfolio of products in consumer-oriented products in the cannabis industry. We're really split up amongst 3 companies that roll up to Dixie Brands. The THC-regulated product line has over 100 products and 13 different product categories or delivery vehicles. And we really manufacture and distribute those currently in 4 states, and by the end of 2019, between 8 and 10 states. We also have 2 other companies that focus on CBD wellness products. Therabis, which is our pet supplement line, a highly curated, highly effective line of products targeting right now to dogs, but at the end of the year, we'll have a feline product as well. And then finally, Acesso Wellness, which is our CBD supplement platform for humans.
Very interesting, actually. So you've got quite a large portfolio of different products that you're selling. Are you just in Colorado? Or are you in multiple states?
Right. So the company's been around for 9 years, and I think that's an important thing for your viewers to know. We've really built over the 9 years a lot of the intellectual property, the foundation for our success. That's standard operating procedures, formulations, and all the things that allow us to actually be capable of delivering a broad portfolio of products. And so, as I mentioned, in the THC business, we're currently in 4 states: Colorado, California, Nevada, and Maryland. And by the end of 2019, our expectation, pardon me, is to open up another 4 to 6 states here in the U.S. We also are working with our licensed partner up in Canada, Oxley, to bring the Dixie products up to Canada once infused products are legalized in that country. So we're excited about that.
Very nice. And I did not know that you'd been running for 9 years. It's very interesting, actually, because a lot of the companies that have been in the spotlight have been around for 1, 2, I mean, you look at Canopy, it's probably the longest in Canada, if you're speaking about here, 5 years or so. To be 9 years, you really have been in the system for a really long time. I think that says a lot for investors, because that shows that clearly you're not a 1 year and done, or you're not just giving out all this speculative information. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. It sounds like you've already gone through that process, and now you're moving forward as different states legalize, and the framework in the United States continues to change.
One of the benefits of being around a long time is that we've been able to see a lot of things and really react to a lot of things. That's why we're so excited about Canada. Even though Canada is not legalized infused products yet, we know we have a broad portfolio ready to go into Canada once the federal government has determined which products are legal or not, and what the regulatory structure is. And as you're probably well aware, the company had filed for a listing on the CSE. And I'm excited to announce that we'll be trading tomorrow, Thursday, our first day of trading. So we're really excited about bringing this company, Dixie Brands, and all the things we've done over the 9 years to a much broader base of investors now, people that maybe weren't as familiar with the cannabis industry, certainly here in the U.S., if they're Canadian, and now they have a chance to see our company and what we're all about, and really go, hopefully, along on the ride with us as we really build this company to the next level.
And that's great to know that you go live tomorrow on the CSE. A couple of our members in our community have been really excited about what you've been doing. They've been following you quite closely. And so I've been hearing them speak about you and watching your company from afar, so it's great to know a little bit more about you now. But it's awesome to know that you're going public tomorrow. What is the ticker that you're going to be using for tomorrow on the CSE?
The ticker is DIXI. And it will have the U symbol because we'll be trading in U.S. dollars. That's where we did our last raise in U.S. dollars, and so we're keeping that currency the same for all our shareholders.
Gotcha. And as for different types of, or why don't we talk about the share structure actually going into this? It's going to be newly traded stock. Is this an RTO? Is this another company, or have you done it straight from scratch? Can you tell a little bit about the share structure of your company?
Yes, it is an RTO. We started this process about 7 months ago. We did an initial raise to really kind of get the company in a position to now go to this level. We then did a pre-RTO raise, which we closed on October 1st. It was a $20 million raise at an $80 million pre-money valuation. This is all US dollars, of course. It was oversubscribed, so we increased the lid on it to $25 million, and we closed out on October 1st. All that was non-brokered at this point, and then we did the RTO, which very successful to get to this point in such a short period of time, and now we'll be trading. The company will be trading somewhere. We did a reverse split or a forward split of about 10.5 to 1 to get the trading range down to about $1 a share, and the company, there'll be about 118 million shares outstanding, all in the hands of investors at this point.
Very nice. So around 118 million. And do you know how many shares are held by management team or by insiders that you feel will be in it for the long run?
Yeah, approximately 65% of the stock is held by share management board, employees, and people that as well as strong investors that I think will be in the company for the long haul. I really hope everyone is. Obviously, we need a little float in the marketplace, and we've had some shareholders that have been with us since 2014. I'm excited personally to be able to deliver this company now into the public markets. It gives those shareholders an opportunity if they want to achieve some liquidity on their original investment, but it also allows us to get a lot of new shareholders to come in and really hopefully experience a fun journey with us.
Yeah, and both those things are very important. I mean, I love seeing when original shareholders can be rewarded for believing in a company and having the patience for the company, while also giving an opportunity for new investors to come in. You set a new floor. You always try to plan it so that it's that volume works well, so it doesn't obviously doesn't go down from that. But no, you need to be able to have a situation where you reward original shareholders, especially 2013. They've been with you for a long time. Excited for that to take place. When it comes to the business itself, in the last little while, what are your revenues looking like compared to your other American counterparts? And what do you forecast for next year, if you're able to say?
Yeah, at this point, we're not going to be doing any forward-looking projections until we issue our financials for Q3. Then we'll probably provide some guidance at that point. I would say that the company is, is very comparable to some of the other companies that are out there now. The reality is that some of them have a much different story than ours. The big vertically integrated companies, many of those are friends of ours, and certainly I hope they'll all be customers of ours as Dixie begins producing and distributing products in their marketplaces. We're right now focused on getting this company not only public, but really executing on our business plan. And the financing that I mentioned earlier, that fully funds us through 2019 and into early 2020. So we're really looking at the capital markets to take advantage of new opportunities to really create additional growth for the company.
Yeah, I like hearing that as well. Having really being cashed up, being able to work at what you want to build with your company, and not necessarily having to go to a raise right away. That's a good benefit, and it's good to hear. And you're right. A lot of people are looking for new investments as well. It's very, very interesting environment surrounding the cannabis space, where obviously it's very new, especially on the capital markets side. But I've been around for about 5 years investing in it, and a lot of the companies that I invested in when I first started in this space are ones that now a lot of people are looking at and thinking to themselves, have they played their course for right now for appreciation of their stock? That's questionable for some and very understandable for others. But it's nice to see newer entrants come in, where obviously you're not newer because you have been doing this for some time, 9 years you were saying. But as a publicly traded vehicle, you're a newer stock, and people like that. People are excited about that, especially the ones that are doing things properly, a management they can believe in, and different elements that show there's a lot of potential for appreciation of value. I think a lot of new entrants do have a certain advantage in that way, where it's not the same old thing anymore. There's not 500, 600, 700 million shares outstanding. It's I think you said around 113. That's very reasonable. It's a good mix for liquidity and also not being too much. And yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting elements about your company. There are different avenues that people can go to learn more after this interview, a website, videos, or something like that?
Yes, they can go to dixieelixirs.com, and we have, we're actually, by tomorrow, we'll bring up our investor site as part of that website. There will be videos, obviously news articles, any filings that we make in our reports. All that will be up on dixieelixirs.com. And again, I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to your investors. We have kind of the best of both worlds here. We are a new entrant, as you said, and I think we are a little bit of a different value proposition because we're entirely focused on being the best CPG company in the industry, entirely focused on controlling manufacturing and distribution across our entire platform. But we also, we've been around for 9 years. Somebody called me an OG. I thought that just stood for old guy. But we certainly have a lot of experience to then leverage to go forward in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do appreciate your time on here as well, and especially that a lot of investors that we speak to are looking for newer entrants, but ones that have value. I think the day of throwing the dart against the wall and just hitting bullseye each time. That's long gone. I think you really do need to pay attention and look for a company that is established or has established management. But it's just interesting as well is that a lot of people are looking south of the border, which wasn't always the case. I think that narrative has really been changing over the last 4 to 6 months of recognizing that although the global aspect of the United States and of their company still isn't there, it's only a matter of time. It's not a if it's going to happen. I strongly believe it's a when it's going to happen. And we all know, if you know anything about economics, the United States economy, it's kind of big. And there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of consumers there. So excited to hear your progress. We'd love to have you back on the show in the next little while as you're just about to go public. We'd love to have you as a recap to see how things went, but also what are your plans in the near future. We'll be watching you closely over the next couple of weeks here.
Thank you so much, and I'd love to come back anytime.
Absolutely. Take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Back again. Love the countdown. Thank you to the studio. They always let us know when we're coming on. We're not picking our nose. We're not doing anything embarrassing. They give us that proper countdown.
They look after us, eh?
Yeah. After this, they're going to just mess with us one time and just wait and not tell us at the time. We're all just going to be doing whatever. But no, appreciate him coming on the show.
Sounds like an interesting company.
Dixie does sound like an... I did not know they were actively
for a long time.
Making products and around for 9 years. I didn't know that. Going public, he said 113 million shares. They did a rollback, and they're looking, or I think they went a forward split actually, and they're looking to. I think he's priced it around like $1.05 is what that was priced around. So should go around public. Who knows, 125, 130, but around 113 million for a company in I think he said 5 states even, working for 9 years. Already got the products. Already know what they're doing. It's interesting.
Yeah, sounds good.
And you look into them more.
As you should.
Yeah, don't just buy because you saw something on here. Yeah. Go look into them. Don't be a fool. That's actually a very dumb thing to do, is because we're talking about something. You buy it or you sell it. That's not how you should be doing your investments. If we say something, or you hear something, or you see something, that simply means go look into it further and make your own decisions.
Well, exactly.
Good stuff. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Mm-hmm.
So, Greg,
go on.
Mr. News.
Yeah, what's up?
By the way, every morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, this man gets up and starts aggregating news every single Monday to Friday. What have you been seeing the last few days?
I didn't do it today. Toddy did it.
I was trying to make you like way up here, and you just ruined it.
I didn't do any of it, man. I didn't do
Here goes that compliment. It's gone.
Didn't do any of it. Look, all Todd's names. All Todd's names.
But what have you been seeing the last couple weeks?
He's throwing out a lot here. What do we got?
Anything stand out to you in the last couple of days from...
You know what, it's just all about financials that are coming out. This week we had so many financials that are coming out. Ianthus financials coming out. It doesn't matter. Like all these financials, it doesn't matter how big it is. They've been...
Did you just get that?
What? Yeah, I did.
What? Did you guys... Sorry to cut you off. Apparently the Ontario government just did a test for their Ontario Ready Alert System. Like, that doesn't feel like a phone call or... Sorry, that's really unprofessional, but... I mean, thank you, Ontario. I know that if I need to know something, you'll be here. It worked. Maybe we can put that on YouTube. It worked.
I think Toddy's watching because he's telling me what we should talk about.
Yeah, so sorry about cutting you off there. I was like, what on earth? I've never seen that before.
Canopy's, look at this. Canopy is entering the U.S. a little bit in there. Man.
Didn't they already have?
They have in numerous ways. They've been really smart with it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're saying that.
I think once things change in the U.S., we're going to find out more.
Yeah.
They already
bought a tomato.
They have a massive tomato farm out in the States. I think through Canopy Rivers. Yeah. There's these vehicles. I don't know them well, so forgive me. But there's these certain vehicles that you can go through that you've got ownership or the potential for ownership in a company, but you haven't exercised it yet. So technically, they don't have ownership, but Canopy's been putting a lot of seeds into the United States, just waiting for it to go federal. Well, but honestly, it's very intelligent. It's very intelligent, and like you said, I think when we start seeing it go legal in the United States, I think you're going to be really surprised by how much ownership some of these Canadian companies were able to get over there without getting kicked off the exchange.
Well, it'd be really smart of them to do things, above board. that can get them some more U.S. exposure, because once that market opens up, man, it's fair game.
Yep.
They're gonna have a lot of money behind them, and Canopy has, you know, is well funded right now, but you know, some of the other ones need some deals, you know.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well funded is
well,
an
that's it. Like when are these other companies going to be making these deals? Like what's Afria, like they went under $11. They were in the $10 range. Like
they were at the $9 range. What do you mean?
What?
They were
Afria, no.
Afria, yeah.
No.
Afria.
Yesterday they closed, I think, around 10.24.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I thought they dipped in the 9s.
Dude.
I could have sworn.
Dude.
He's like, I know. Stop trying to correct.
Have you not seen me post a chart in our chat rooms like every night?
You're amazing.
I even asked Chris for some TA yesterday.
Yeah.
A little button breakdown.
He didn't get back to us.
I was looking forward to that. Well, you know who did get back to us and is going to come on really shortly. We've got.
I need to give a little shout out to the studio right now, as Johnny Mac is trying to call in and nobody's answering his call.
Nobody is answering his
We're
call.
going to pause the show.
Can you please get him to call us again, please? Thank you.
We're going to get him to call again.
John.
This is what you get from a live presentation, a live broadcast. You never know what goes on.
We should get Alex on the camera.
You could be talking, and all of a sudden the Ontario government sends you an alert message, and there's people on YouTube saying, I got it too. So it's working, Ontario. It's working. You did a good job. You done well.
You
done well, boy.
You done well. But no, it'll be nice having Johnny Mac come on and break some of these stocks down, because we're in a really weird state. Nothing's got legs. They're all.
Yeah, he always says, but no.
But
so
no.
Like, so right there, we were like, but yeah, but no, but yeah.
I wonder if that's like an Ontario thing. You know that in Ontario, other than when the T is at the beginning of the word, if it's anywhere near the end, we just don't say it.
You know what a Canadian thing is like, when you're trying to navigate through traffic, like when you're walking around and you're holding doors, everybody apologizes because they couldn't hold the door long enough. You know, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hold the door long enough. Sorry. or just in distance. Oh yeah, it's 5 minutes down the road. You go to the States, it's miles. They won't tell you it's 2 or 3 minutes. Little things that are completely irrelevant, because we're buying time to have Johnny Mac come up, because I think he's here. Is he here?
I believe so.
If he was here, he'd be up on the screen.
I know, what's going on? I just got the thumbs up. I did.
Well,
I don't lie about these things.
See him.
I know.
We're
talking to him right now.
To him,
Johnny, what's going on, brother?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. How are you?
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah,
there
we're
we
just
go.
turning
We got
our
him.
mic on.
We did it. We made the technology
let's do
work.
a little live test, John. Are you hearing feedback right now?
I am not hearing feedback right now. That is too bad, I would say. I can still hear it slightly, yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
All right.
All right. Let's start breaking down. Is when we get the screen share up on the screen, we'll be able to see all the different things that he's talking about.
And I see it on this screen.
Well, that's good. That works out just well. So,
all right.
Sir Johnny, who are we breaking down first? Who won our poll from our private Facebook group, Follow the Money Investor Group? Go there, vote next time. Who won?
I believe the lucky winner this week was Wayland Group for #1, I think second week in a row.
How many votes did he get?
So
A few.
I can't remember how many votes it got,
A
but
few more than the
I
second.
think it was the first. A few more than the second. And it was by quite a wide margin, actually. I can't remember exactly, but it was nowhere close, that's for sure. So obviously lots of people holding Wayland Group. Yeah, so I mean, we broke it down last week, but so what's changed from last week? So the last week would have been, I believe, the 21st. So we had this gap up, and again, let's focus on this doji. So we've had this long downtrend. We had that failed breakout. We talked about that last week, and that breakout failed. And when that failed, we ended up losing this August low from mid-August. So as marijuana stocks go, when you look at relative strength, compared to the ones, such as like a Canopy that has stayed above its August low, Wayland is definitely in that weaker group, relatively speaking. But so when you're in a nice downtrend like this, if you're a bull and you're looking for things to turn around, seeing a candlestick like this is definitely should be welcome news to you. So a doji signals indecision. It's in the family of candlesticks that we would call reversal candlesticks. So, if you have relatively flat trading from side to side, it's not really a big deal. But when you're trending up or down and you get this doji, and especially a gap down doji, I would call it what's called star position. So it's gap down below the previous one. That's a sign of reversal. So we did get that push last Wednesday. We gave back a little at the end of the day, but then look at the nice follow through the day before, another gap up. So 2 days in a row, this remarked quite a change in sentiment. And the interesting thing was that this came, this day, relatively high volume day came on a Thursday when the U.S. markets were closed. So we had a really high volume day kind of out of nowhere. We broke through that resistance area that I had pegged. So remembering back that we had the support from the August low support, we broke it, but quickly back above. And then we broke it here, retested it, and failed. So we were looking at that as a resistance area. So I had marked it in red, and we gapped above on the last Thursday, right above that. And not only right above that resistance area, but also above the 20-day moving average as well. This dashed line here. Hopefully everybody can see it on their screens. So that's quite a move. 2 days in a row, 2 gaps up, increasing volume by the buyers. So that's a good sign. Now, I'm not surprised at all that after a move like that, we are consolidating and turning back down. That's, we went literally from a close of 117 to a close of 150. That's percentage-wise, that's a huge move in 2 days, and it was on no news, if I remember correctly. You guys would probably know better, but correct me if I'm wrong. There was no news to drive that. It was just, looks like to me, basically an oversold bounce. So if you're long Whalen Group, what you want to see is the trend change around, and it's obviously it's been down for a while. So the nice thing about this last move was we got above the previous high at 139. So we got above that resistance area. We've set a higher high. And now what we're doing is basically looking to see if this higher low holds. So, here's our low from before. Here's our new low. I've marked it in green as a support area. So we got as low as 121. So you're basically hoping that this support area will hold. We're going to bounce up. So the question becomes, do we get an equilibrium pattern forming, sort of a tightening range, or are we going to get more bullish follow-through movement and push through this, this previous spot at $1.51? So if I was a betting man, I would say probably we're looking at I would think higher odds of an equilibrium rather than setting a new higher high than this, but that remains to be seen. We'll see. But on the pullback here, the volume has been lower, which is good. Little bit higher volume day yesterday, but we did leave a lower wick there, and we did get the bounce. And you can actually see anytime you have a gap up, the gap usually provides you support. So the top of the doji here would be basically your bottom of your gap support, and you see that we rebounded right off of that level. So the top of the doji, 122, and you see that yesterday the low was 121. So basically that level, that bottom of the gap gave us a bounce, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this this range plays out, if it's going to tighten up or if we're going to get follow through buying past that 150 level. If we were to get past that 150, 151 level, then as marked on the chart, I would still be looking at this 160, 163, 164 level. RSI wise, interestingly too, on this downtrend, we got into oversold territory here. You can see that on the second push down, we were setting a lower low that we bounced right off the 30, so we didn't actually get into oversold territory. And then on this last low, which was even lower, so you can see this is what we call bullish divergence in momentum, because even though we're setting lower lows here, the RSI is not confirming it, so we're actually setting higher lows on the RSI. So it's not by much, but it's there. And interestingly enough, you could call this what's called a failure swing on the RSI, where the stock pushes into oversold territory, tries to rebound, can't get through, doesn't get back into oversold territory, and then we're looking for this RSI, quote unquote resistance to break, which we did on this last push up. I thought that was interesting. So I think that's a good development. Possible trend change here. It'd just be interesting to see, if we get some follow through. So that's my views on Wayland Group, #1 pick.
All right. Question for you, Johnny. What do you think will happen when or if a reverse split that they're going to do?
3-to-1 reverse split. I think it's voted on December 20th is their AGM. Don't quote me on the date of their AGM.
Yeah, so a good point. I had actually meant to bring that up, and my bad memories failed me again, but thank you for reminding me. So consolidation of shares, otherwise known as reverse split, typically the market sentiment reacts negatively to that, and people should understand that negative sentiment comes from companies, for example, that are trading at 1 or 2 cents, that you can't raise money at 1 or 2 cents. The minimum is 5 cents, so they often have to consolidate their shares. So that means, say the company has 100 million shares outstanding, they do a 2-to-1 consolidation, you're now 50 million shares outstanding, and that's done to increase the share price so that they can actually finance and keep the company alive. The other thing that gets share consolidations a bad name is when you trade in the US, for example, there are standards, there are minimum share prices that you need to maintain. And companies that are in trouble tend to consolidate their shares to bring their share price up. And everyone needs to understand that when you consolidate the shares, nothing has fundamentally changed about the company. You're literally just adjusting the share structure and the share price. And if there are underlying negative factors about the company that are weighing on the stock price, that's not going to change by consolidating your shares, but it does allow the company to stay trading. So that's why reverse splits, aka consolidations, kind of have that bad rap. But I find personally my own experience with observing the behaviors and attitudes of investors is when you see a reverse split, people don't like that. They tend to sell. So that is just a voting item right now for Wayland. It's not the ability of the management team to consolidate the shares is not set in stone until it's approved by the shareholders. And it's also not a guarantee. The company is not forced to consolidate the shares, and they don't have to go 3-to-1. They could do 2-to-1. They could do a different ratio, but they're basically asking shareholders to empower themselves, to empower management to consolidate up to 3-to-1. Whether this has played into this sell-off that we've seen the last 2 days, it could be. Again, in my own thinking, because it made such a big rebound in a very quick period of time on no news, I think it was just due for a correction anyway. But the consolidation tends to have a negative, it's always viewed negatively in the industry. In this case, they would be using it to get the share price up to meet listing requirements for a U.S. listing. I think if you're going to consolidate your shares for whatever reason, that's probably the reason you want to do it. They aren't consolidating the shares because they can't raise money or they're failing to maintain their own listing right now.
Yeah,
that's a long-winded answer, but I hope that
Johnny, I wouldn't be surprised they are doing that reverse split with intention of getting on an exchange, whether it be somewhere in the States, TSX, whatever it be. It seems like the motivation, but again, you don't know for sure. I don't believe they stated it in the press release, but that's what I think most people are deducing is why they're doing it.
No, if somebody's in a private placement with them, what happens to those type of shares and like the warrants that you get with them?
All shares and all warrants are adjusted. Anytime you go into a private placement, there's basically a paragraph in the subscription document, a clause, and it'll basically say, the price of these shares, the price of the warrants is subject to adjustment from splits or consolidation. So everybody is treated the same. Management shares get if you reduce split, if you consolidate the shares, everybody gets less shares. Management, institutional shareholders, retail shareholders, everybody's affected the same. Warrants, options, they're all affected the same.
Okay.
What are we moving on to now? Are we moving on to the venture?
Yeah, was that number 2? I think it was.
Yeah, yeah, the venture was number 2.
The whole venture.
Let's look back at. So we'll start from the really long-term view, and I think when you look at an index, that's kind of where you have to look. So that's the chart of the venture. That is not a pretty chart. I don't think you have to be a TA guy or girl to think that, you know, the venture is in a good place right now. We are basically at the second lowest point that this exchange has been since, you know, this index started tracking, at least on stock charts, which is November 1999. So, wow. You know, 2008, here's your 2008 low. Everyone remembers how ugly things got in 2008. Guess what? We're trading below 2008 prices. So it did have a bottom in 2016, early 2016, below the 2008, believe it or not. And it's made this attempt to rebound, and that rebound was rejected solidly. And here's your evidence right here. Big upper wick. This is a monthly chart, everyone, by the way, so just as a reminder, every candle here is 1 month's time. So because we're looking at 20 years here. Look at this volume and look at that upper wick, and then the follow through selling that we saw. So this was major distribution. Basically, this was institutional funds, whatever, retail combined, basically selling shares. There's not enough people to soak it up. Distribution pushes the price down. And you know, the unfortunate thing is when the venture rebounded from this area, it did it fairly sharply. I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of support in this area. So, you know, trying to find a support level in here based on price action, I think is going to be tough. Basically, at this point, we're hoping, you know, if you're a venture investor, that we can set a higher low than this last dip in 2016. And, you know, keep in mind, too, that this whole time, more or less, 2017, 2018, I know, you know, we've had our troubles in 2018, but the markets have generally been in a bull market. There's been an uptrend, and yet this, you know, the venture is showing weakness. So just imagine if, I'm not saying we're going to have it, but just imagine we had another 2008 type crash on the S&P 500, you know, what it would do to the venture when it's already this weak. So let's take a look at the, sorry, go ahead, Karl.
What makes up the venture?
It's an index like anything else. So the venture is basically a collection of share prices of companies that are listed on the stock exchange, and usually the criteria, you know, are certain market capitalization, certain might be a certain average daily volume, and they're basically taking the top market cap companies on the TSXV, and they're creating an index from it. So this is really representative. You know, when you're looking at an index, it's representative of a collection of data points of the actual stocks that exist on the venture itself.
I think,
so this is our weekly chart, and just like, let's look back. Here's 2008. So we got this rebound, and I set the support area here in green. So notice when we came back down here, 2014, we broke through, tried to get back through, rejected. It's been a long time in this area, and that's roughly, you know, the 710 to 680, 675 area. Rejected out of there. We got this all-time low. Had a little bit of trouble getting through, but we got back through. So now we're looking at support. So when we came back down in late 2016, it didn't quite hit this support area, but it came pretty close. And you could have called this sort of an ascending triangle consolidation. You know, the price was hitting basically the same highs. We had increasing lows here, so rising bottoms. This would be viewed as a bullish pattern, and you could have also made an argument for an inverse head and shoulders here as well. Left shoulder, head, and then possibly a right shoulder here. But we never did get the breakout until here, but you could see this was basically a fake out. It wasn't a breakout. Big volume here, and then this push down. I think this rebound off the bottom here, in a lot of this could have been associated with the marijuana stocks, because marijuana stocks, if you think about it, were 2016 was a big year, and especially late 2016. You know, companies like Canopy, Aurora, Afria were all still trading on the venture, so they would have been, you know, they would have been participating in basically bumping up this index. Now, obviously the index has since lost those companies. So look at this, we're back at that 2018 low again. Support area rebounded, but really weak, bounced off the 20-week moving average, and down it goes. And I don't know if everyone can see this candle at home, but we had this rejection. It's almost like we tried to recover that lost support and it rejected, and now, you know, we're setting new lows again. So the weekly trend is definitely low, sellers in control on the venture. So, you know, this helps to characterize, it's not easy for companies on the venture to get traction, because obviously there's this very bearish sentiment about these venture companies in Canada. You can also see here negative divergence on the PPO, that when we were trying to make this break, that we made this new high but substantially lower low. So momentum wise, maybe that was a warning sign. I wasn't paying particular attention at that time, but that, you know, if I were to look at the chart, I guess that was a big danger sign. One thing I wanted to sort of note as well, when we look back in time at places where the venture has sort of had a rebound, you know, and using the PPO as sort of an oversold indicator. We do have the RSI, we know it's oversold, but take a look at how many bounces we've had when we hit about, you know, -8 and change on the PPO. So I'm wondering if we might be heading back down to that area again before we, you know, we see a rebound. Price momentum oscillator, same family of indicators here. Notice how it tried to come back above its signal line and failed. It topped and actually bounced off. So that would have indicated here that this rebound attempt was, you know, was going to fail, which it did. We ended up failing, and we ended up making a lower low. And one last chart to show. We go just zoom into the daily chart. Basically, we're in a downtrend channel. We've got several touches on this trend line. One roughly not quite there, but two, call it 3, 4, 5. Now we've actually broken below this trend, downtrend channel, which to me, you know, because we're already in a downtrend and we're breaking below the downtrend itself, maybe this means we're getting extended to the downside and possibly due for a short-term rebound at some point. If I was to look for a rebound December, if you look at seasonality-wise, the venture statistically typically has a strong December from the data that I've looked at. I think over the last 20 years, I think 85% of the time it's closed higher in December than it started, and I think in the last 4 years that goes to 100%. I'm kind of going by memory here, but so maybe we see a little bit of a rebound in December to get us back into this downtrend channel, but really, just because we get a rebound, we're still stuck in this, you know, this constant bear pressure, constant selling. So yeah, the venture does not look pretty. I guess one thing I did note, if you look on the daily chart and you look at these, we are setting these lows, lower lows, but we are setting higher lows on RSI, so we do have bullish momentum divergence. That doesn't mean that the bulls are taking control. It just means, you know, it's basically saying decreasing bearish momentum. But I will throw a caveat on that. When you're in such an extended and long and established downtrend, I find on these momentum, the RSI, stochastics tend to, it's not uncommon to get like bad signals on these divergences. You get a lot of momentum divergences because you're in such a strong trend. I would look more, if we're looking for a divergence in momentum, I would like to see it in the PPO, which is your trend follower. I follow this indicator more in a strong trend, which we're in. So if we were to make another low, for example, and if we got a rebound and then made another low and we failed to make another low on the PPO, then that would get me interested in thinking maybe there's a rebound. But keeping this all in perspective, looking back obviously at the weekly and monthly chart, this the index has a lot of work to do to get itself back on solid footing.
Well, I guess my question earlier.
So yeah, that's my take on the venture.
I guess my question earlier, it wasn't more specific. What makes up the bulk of the venture? What kind of companies? Is it mining?
That's a good question, Karl. I don't have the quick answer for you. You'd be able to Google that, Google the Venture Composite Index, and probably bring up a spreadsheet or a table of the companies that actually make it up. And you can see, you know, who the big players are. Basically, you know, what are the companies that are that make up the majority.
Okay.
Yeah, and just Googling it earlier while you were talking there, the company does have to have at least 0.05% of the index. It's weighted by market capitalization. It's done by Standard & Poor's, who manages that index. But if you keep going, yeah, it'll tell you a list of what's on there. So if you are curious, Google it, because I'm sure it changes daily, weekly, monthly.
Well, I've been following the venture, the TSX venture, for the last couple of weeks now, just because it looks such a significant drop. It's like, Jesus. And then, of course, you know, myself and many of us are in Garibaldi.
Yeah.
And you gotta, you know, it's on the venture, right? So you gotta keep tabs on that. A lot of the mining plays are on the venture.
Yeah.
Right, Johnny?
A lot of the mining plays aren't doing too well, are they?
Yeah, I mean, the venture is the place for junior mining companies. You do see a few on the CSE, but for the most part, the venture exchange is where you go for mining companies. You know, most of the marijuana companies you see on the CSE or the venture are old mining companies that, you know, were basically resuscitated from death. You know, that they ran out of money, ran out of good prospects, and now, you know, they grow weed or sell marijuana.
What's next?
You know, the venture, the dead came back to rise, basically, in the form of
a lot of shareholders were helped out that were in a shell that was doing nothing.
Yeah.
And now they're multimillionaires and probably a part of a free Aurora or something.
Guess what? Hope you like oil. What's next?
Ooh.
What company?
So I think Even Co was number 3.
Makes me want to sing Pearl Jam.
So
Even Co.
Yeah. So yeah.
I get every time I see it, that's what I think of.
Yeah.
Sorry, Johnny.
Sorry, Johnny.
Yeah, no problem.
We have to just let everybody know that they're a client.
Yeah.
Even Co is a client. Okay.
Beautiful.
Is Pearl Jam client?
No.
Okay.
All yours, John.
So, Even Co, I mean, it's only been trading for 5 months. IPO, not uncommon from what I've seen, that they have a, you know, basically there's a lot of interest on day one and it tends to sell off. So we had this resistance area around 35. You can see we ran up against it, but very low volume here comparatively speaking, but back up against the same resistance that you had on IPO day, small consolidation, and then push. And this push came on really good volume. So I highlighted it in this square. You had quite a lot of volume on the stock, and that persisted all through September, basically September and October, until we lost this support area. So you can see it's not a perfect descending triangle, but the concept is there. So descending triangle is, roughly speaking, the same support areas being tested, but every time it rebounds, the price is getting, you know, the bulls are able to push it up less and less. So you see these tops are lower and lower each time. I don't know what you guys did, but by the way, just off topic, but I lost my echo there for the last 30 seconds, which was really wonderful. I didn't have to hear myself talk, but it's back again.
I did something.
Anyway,
How about you? Sure.
I'll continue on. So yeah, this was your support area to watch, was the 38.5, 39 area. We bounced off there twice. So the lower highs here. So lower momentum, and then you broke through here. The stock tried to take it back the next day. You can see that the tip of the candle, the wick here, rejected off that. And now we're kind of back in a tight horizontal range, and you could call this maybe a double bottom. These bottoms were pretty close, 25, 24 and a half. Even here, 25 and a half. So you can see that the share price is rebounding roughly from the same area. So when you get this sort of behavior, a double bottom, you can look for this intermediate high between the two and say if you can break that intermediate high, that's bullish. That intermediate high was 31.5. You can see we rejected off 32 here and 32 a couple times. So I look at 32 level as sort of the significant resistance area. And you can see that we've actually started to make higher lows here at 28.5. So we've tested 28.5 twice. It's held. So that seems to be the nearest support level. And then if that were to break, then look for a little bit more daily consolidation. But this 25 level seems to be a support zone. This whole time it's been consolidating. Check out the volume here versus where you had before. We did have, in theory, some bullish divergence. So yes, that even though these dips are essentially the same, they're essentially the same low. In theory, if you're going to get real nitpicky, it is making a lower low each 3 times here, but we were getting higher highs here on RSI, higher highs on the PPO. So we are seeing some bullish divergence and momentum, which is what you want to see if you're long the stock. And we are seeing, after a long time of having clear distribution here, we're seeing this money flow start to be positive again. That happened basically on this move here. So one thing I'd like to add on this chart, I think you can really explain this chart well by looking at the share structure. So if you look back, if you're an even co-shareholder, basically if you think back or look back in history, the raise that was done, I believe in May or June, don't quote me on the date, but there were about 43 million shares issued at 25 cents. Okay, so when the stock first started to trade, I would guess that the sellers here were probably people that held the shell. Okay, so they're selling. You don't see a lot of volume, and then you see this push up. Now, on this push down, you notice that we don't get a lot of people selling shares below 25 cents. And that's the place that a lot of people holding the stock are in at. Okay, they raised, I think it was 11 million or something like that. Around 25 cents. So who's going to sell below that? If everybody's holding at 25 cents, nobody likes to sell at a loss. So that kind of makes sense for why we would see this area acting as support. And when we look at this area, you can actually, if you look on CDAR, you can see that there's been a hedge fund that got in on that same financing back in May, June. Again, don't quote me on the exact date. They took down convertible debentures. And I believe they had 33.3 million shares equivalent convertible at 30 cents. So note all this selling that we got when we moved above 30 cents. And then once we've moved below 30 cents, the volume has quieted down. So this is showing you that fund is unloading. And you can actually verify that for yourself. If you go online, go on cedar.com. And you're going to look for something called an alternative monthly report. And basically that is a report that a eligible institutional investor has to file if they hold over 10% of the securities of a company. And if they change their position by more than 2.5% in a 1-month period, they're required to file that report within, I believe it's 10 days of month end. So the hedge fund has filed 2 reports, and they were selling this whole time. They were basically converting their convertible debt into equity and then dumping these shares on the market. And don't forget that the convertible debt came with warrants. So essentially what they're trying to do is reduce their basically protect their capital, reduce their risk. So they're unloading their capital into the market. And the goal would be obviously to completely unwind. I'm guessing, I'm guessing, but I bet, I think I'm confident in guessing that their goal would be to unwind that position in the market, completely protect their initial investment. Obviously, they would have been making a profit here because they're selling, we're trading in the 40s, right? So they were making at least 33% return on that. And then they're going to sit risk-free on their warrants. So anytime you get a push above 30, just remember that you have a seller, based on their behavior in the past, that they've shown a clear intention that they want to exercise their convertible share option and sell those shares in the open market. So if we were to get a rebound here, a bullish break, I would expect volume to pick up, and I would expect kind of the same thing here, that they would be selling into people the whole time. So that's going to be a drag on the share price until, until those that whole debt is wiped out. And I believe if you check the remaining balance, I think they have about 13.3 million shares left. Somewhere around there is what they have left.
For a long time, you kept seeing them going, so they still have a good chunk left, eh?
Yeah, so that, keep that in mind. Again, share structure, so critical on these junior companies. So anytime you see a big push, that's going to be like a headwind for the company to gain traction, right? Because you have that seller. They're the ones that are basically providing all the supply in the market. And what you're seeing here is buyers were initially soaking them up, and eventually you run out of buyers because there's way too much supply, and then it just gets pushed down. So we're back in this flat trading range. If we get the bull breakout, then, it's... Yeah, go ahead, Karl.
Just want to stop you for a second here, because this is big time value added. And I just want people to know that, you and I are going to do a Facebook Live in our Facebook group, and we're going to talk about doing due diligence. And some of the stuff that you're talking about is very educational. People are learning a lot and can learn a lot. And if you're shareholders in companies, this is how you can, if you're trying to figure out why a stock you're in is trading a certain way and why it can't break out, I mean, these are the types of things that you can learn how to go and research and do this type of stuff yourself.
It's actually incredible, 100%.
And it's also worthy of pointing out why it's value added to be in our group, because you can always ask these questions. Sorry, John, I didn't want to cut you off, but I wanted to make that point.
No, it's a very good point, because even with MPX, what was it, earlier in the year, we were talking in groups and we found out that it was one seller who was unloading a position. He had like 40 million shares.
Yeah.
And they pushed it all the way down to 40 cents. And that's when I was buying, because I knew what was happening. I knew as soon as he dried up.
Well, exactly. And so, instead of just looking at your phone every day, your account, going, how come this thing is not moving, right? If you understand why, and you're bullish on that long term, and you think you have an advantage, well, then you can come to your own conclusion if you should be adding or subtracting, whatever. And we're not advising you to do one of those. But sorry, John, didn't want to cut you off there, but
you cut him off for a good reason.
It was a good reason.
Yeah, no problem. I don't take any offense to that. So yeah, just keep in mind, if you're a shareholder, yeah, even at 30 cents, keep in mind that hedge fund just selling at 30 cents, they're basically covering their cost, right? So they don't need the share price doesn't need to be 40 for them to sell. Anytime you get up into this area, they're basically selling and covering their cost. They've already booked a 33% plus profit on selling all these. So I mean, they're doing quite well for themselves. So yeah, keep that in mind. Share structure, very important. The first thing, one of the first things when a company gets pitched on Bay Street to brokers, the first thing they want to know is who's in already, and what price are they in at. So they want to know who else is in the company, who's holding shares, and what price are they in at. You need to know that information, because you need to know, when the share price is at 25 cents, do you have someone sitting, and this isn't Eve specific, but just as a general example, do you have somebody sitting at 5 cents holding paper that's up 4 times their money, or 5 times their money when the share price is at 25? And if the answer is yes, and that, if the answer is that paper is free trading, then you should be keeping that in mind, that, people are motivated to sell when they're at 5 times their money and there's liquidity to, especially in current market conditions.
That's a great point.
And then I think the last one on the list was Believe. This is the weekly chart. So this rebound that we've had recently, so basically since early January, it's been in a downtrend like many stocks. Nothing special about that, but if you compare again, here is that August low. You can see that the price did break that August low. So from a relative strength standpoint, Believe is in, I would sort of categorize it in that group of stocks that are showing relative weakness compared to others, again, versus something like a Canopy that that held above its August low. So Wayland, Believe, both of them broke their August low. You see that this old area of support again acted as support here. And we had a nice long lower wick here. So yes, it was a dip. This you call this, some people call it like bear volume, but take a look at that long upper wick, which is good. So the buyers bought that dip nicely. Again, this is a weekly chart, keep in mind. So we have had this trend line here. So some people are trend line people, some people aren't, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touches on this trend line. We did actually manage to close above a few weeks ago, and this whole mess here was caused by the share split. It was, so as opposed to what we talked about earlier, they actually increased their share count, and the big wick came on the day before people were actually supposed to receive their extra shares. So it was trading on a post-consolidation or a post-split basis, but people, I don't know if they just didn't realize that it was, and they were buying thinking they were getting a deal. But, you know, at the time, again, you have to know, people need to understand that when a stock splits, it takes a couple days for people to get their extra shares. But the day after the record date, basically it's trading on a post-split basis, and you have all that supply is going to come online. So you can't be buying it up. Someone bought it up, I think, as high as 41 cents. And, you know, that's just obscene. Like, look at how much they paid compared to where this price was. So in the near term, it did manage to get above really quickly, but it kind of failed. So, you know, I wouldn't call that a very clean breakout at all. And I don't really know what to make of this on a chart, because you kind of know what's behind it. It's not like there was a big surge in demand. I think this is a real quick push up and down. So personally, myself, I would kind of tend to ignore that candle. But yes, we are making lower lows on the chart, but notice this, higher lows here in momentum on stochastics. So we have that bullish divergence, and it is being confirmed on the PPO. So in the trend following oscillator, we are not setting lower lows. So that is a good sign. So that might be mean from a weekly standpoint. We can, you know, we're seeing the bearish momentum sort of taper off a bit. And if we go to the daily chart here, we had a bunch of support here as well. I just kind of highlighted it roughly. Even though we had that dip, the share price kind of stuck around in that area, and we are seeing it sort of stick around in this area too. So we did make a higher high here. So we've kind of, from a daily chart standpoint, we got past that high, which was good, and even ignoring this upper wick. So, you know, we're consolidating here. We made a higher low, tried to rebound, rejected, and fallen back. So you can call this resistance now, because we had several tests of this, what would it be, 15.5 level, broke it, and now notice that we've rejected that same level. So 15.5 now acting as a resistance, whereas it was a support before. And now we're just looking to see if we can, you know, we need to set a higher low here. We haven't been able to hold the lows. So this dragonfly doji here, so when the price opens and closes roughly at the same price, and you have this lower wick, that is, you know, that is a potential reversal candle in a downtrend. We didn't get follow through on that, but again, we are having that reversal candle type behavior today with that long wick. So you could call that a hammer. So you can see that buyers are starting to push back, and we are in that area where in the past they have sort of pushed back as well. So wouldn't be surprised if we get a pushback up again. So, you know, your first step is to break this this resistance area, and then you'd be looking at that resistance area. And obviously very important on any consolidation, if you get a push up, any consolidation, you want the lows to be higher to show that, you know, the volume, the trend is turned around. So that's what I'm seeing on Believe.
We've got about 4 minutes left. Did you want to touch on this report that came out a couple of days ago in regards to these Bridgemark? Did you read that? Did you read it at all?
Yeah, well, I did. I did read that. I think most people that pay attention to the markets, I think you'd be hard pressed not to read it. It's been getting attention everywhere. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it on the Financial Post. Interesting development. So if you read into the details, basically it looks like it's a temporary order because the Securities Commission has not finished their investigation yet. But essentially what I'm getting from the report is they have enough evidence that there is harm being done, that they wanted to issue cease trade orders to prevent more harm from being done, basically as a proactive measure. So that tells me that the Securities Commission probably has a fair amount of confidence that harm is being done. I would be very shocked if there's not charges laid eventually as a follow-up. But right now it just happens to be a temporary cease trade order. If you look at if anyone doesn't understand, I brought this up. I'm not picking on this company, but I picked this company because this is a Form 9. So this is a CSE company. This is PREV, P-R-E-V is the symbol. This is a Form 9 from one of the companies that was named. And this just lists all the people that are going in this private placement that was done. And you can see that they're showing as accredited investors here. Okay, so this is their exemption from prospectus exemption, accredited investor. And you see these two parties here, CPATIC and Daytona Capital Corp, both of those were named in that BCSC release. You can see that their exemption for prospectus they're using a different one. So they're using section 2.24 instead of 2.3. A consultant, and this is, if you didn't quite understand what they meant in the BCSC release, this consultant, executive officer, director, employee, etc., the way that this is intended to be used, to my understanding, is if the company does not have money to pay somebody out in cash, they can give them shares. And these shares are affected by what is called a seasoning period, and that is different from accredited investor. When you buy shares in a private placement, it is held to what is called a restricted hold period. A restricted hold period relates to the shares itself. They cannot be traded for 4 months. The seasoning period, on the other hand, when you use this exemption, it uses a seasoning period of 4 months as well. But the seasoning period does not relate to the actual shares issued, but rather to the issuer or the company itself. So if the company has been trading for more than 4 months publicly, basically as soon as you issue shares under this exemption, the seasoning period has already happened. The company's been trading for 4 months already, so it's essentially these shares are free tradable. So everyone else buying in this private placement, they're subject to a 4-month hold, and then you have these two individuals here, or groups here, they can sell their shares immediately because they're using this consultant exemption. And I think, if you read into the BCSC release, basically the argument was that they didn't feel like the intent of the rule of calling them consultants wasn't met, that they actually weren't, in good faith acting as consultants. That sounded like what the accusations or allegations are.
Numbers too. I mean, you look at the amount of shares, 200,000, 500,000, 200,000, and then the two that you pointed out were 20 million.
I'd love to see the chart from when they became, when they got it, right? And it's obviously they can sell right away. I'd love to see the chart on that timeline. Yeah. But how much time do we have left?
We're out of time, but the reason why we bring that up as well, though, is that if you really start looking at this, and we have been since this press release went out, we've been looking at the companies that they mentioned and looking at different elements. That's a theme. That's not a one-time off thing. You're seeing the same people, same things, same elements, same charts, you can even say.
Dude.
It looks like a theme.
I've heard things, and maybe John would know about this. John, we do have to go, but I've heard that the CSE now is not making, they're actually changing the way that companies report, but it's not necessarily a good thing because they don't have to put their name on certain documents now. Have you heard about that, John?
I have heard that rumor, so for anyone at home, for clarification, that document that I just had up, that Form 9, that Form 9 does not exist for public view for example, on the TSX Venture. So if you do a private placement on the TSX Venture, people cannot look up who subscribed to the private placement. Whereas when a company does it on the CSE, it is public knowledge. So basically, yeah, I have heard the rumor that the CSE is going to stop issuing these Form 9s, so people won't actually be able to tell when companies like this, this quote-unquote Bridgemark group are getting in a stock. It would be hidden from public view. So from a transparency standpoint, from due diligence and stuff, it's not really a great thing if you're an investor.
Well, we're gonna stop it there. We're gonna resume this. When are we doing a Facebook Live?
We haven't decided on it. We haven't decided. Yeah, maybe Thursday, right? But
we'll resume this with that. That's an important point.
Yeah, we're gonna go over. Johnny Mac's gonna help us. Where we should be starting with due diligence, and we'll just we'll have more time and whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Johnny Mac, always a pleasure. The comments that are coming in on the Midas Letter YouTube channel and our FTMIG live channel, they're really enjoying this. People are saying, you describe the charts and the things that make up technical analysis very well, that even people who are just learning can follow and understand. So I appreciate that very much. We always appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem, gents. You have yourselves a good afternoon. Cheers.
Take care.
Absolutely. We're going to end the show, but coming up in just 13 minutes, we have Ed. And who else was filling in today?
Mr. Meisner.
Mr. Meisner. He was the extra host. They're coming out at 3 o'clock. Lots coming up in that show. Stay tuned soon.
Later.
Have a nice day, everyone.